What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of Valeting channel. If you're first time here, my name is Peter. I'm based in Ireland, Fairbank, County Offaly. I do detailing for last 15 years. So in this video I'm gonna explain you a couple of different things involved in cleaning cars. My last video, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you to watch it, as I gave a really good chemistry lesson about different sort of types of different uses of detailing products. So if you combine the knowledge from the previous video from the knowledge from this one, you will be able to upgrade your game, improve your skill, make your work more effective, more efficient, but what's most important, very safe. So if you have understanding of products that you use there, you understand their purpose, how to use them, their strength, etc. What you need to understand as well is you need to understand the surface that you're working on. When you're detailing a car, there are many different surfaces that you'll be dealing with. So what you need to know about them is you need to sort of have good idea about their chemical and scratch resistance. So let's start from the chemical resistance, and that mainly applies to the products that you use. If you understand the products and you understand chemical resistance of surfaces that you're dealing with, you should never have any issues, you should never be causing damages. So basically, what is chemical resistance? It's ability of the surface to endure itself from chemical reaction for specific period of time. Therefore, materials with high chemical resistance are less likely to get damaged. And of course, vice versa. There are surfaces that they have small chemical resistance and you can damage them very easily. So now let's talk about the scratch resistance. Scratch resistance refers to the hardness of materials in terms of resistance to scratches and abrasions that might be caused by other harder materials when they're forcefully drawn on its surface. So when you clean in a car, you can imagine that when you're using different sort of brushes, for example, to clean different surfaces, some of the surfaces have better scratch resistance, some of them they are more delicate. If you think about a simple job, which is washing a car, overall it seems to be simple, but then you need to look at cars that are around you. If you go to any car park when it's sunny day and you look at the paint, most of cars are destroyed. Most of cars have swirl marks, have different scratches. So that's basically a proof that very few people understand properly the scratch resistance of surfaces when it comes to washing cars. When it comes to chemical resistance, have you ever seen this type of damages? I'm sure you did. So in this case, people cleaning their cars or even people delivering services and they cause this type of damage. So that means that those people have no understanding of chemical resistance of surfaces at all. So as you can see, understanding the product is a huge factor. Understanding the surface is another very important one. So if you don't want to cause any damages on surfaces by chemicals, you need to pick right chemicals for the surfaces. Of course, that applies to strength of them and type of product. If you don't want to cause mechanical damages, you need to pick your tools, and that applies to brushes, even wash mitts, etc. Tools that you sort of rubbing over the surface. So what you want to make sure when you're choosing tools for different tasks is that the hardness of the tool doesn't exceed scratch resistance of the surface that you're dealing with. So going back to that simple process, which seems to be washing car. Lots of people have that idea in their head that the brush Quick Car uses or sponge is damaging their paint. But if you think about bristle on most of these brushes, unless they're very hard, will not damage the paint on its own. Also, sponge as it is, it won't damage the paint. But what damages the paint is dirt trapped between the brush or sponge against the paint. The reason of that is that when it comes to road film that you have on your car, if it's not washed properly, the dirt usually contains a lot of sand. Hardness of sand is much higher than scratch resistance of any sort of paintwork. So now I hope you can clearly understand why it's so important to understand scratch and chemical resistance of surfaces. So let's just give few examples. You have number of different surfaces on every car. So let's say there you have paintwork, you have plastic trims, interior trims, you have different types of wheels, you have rubber surfaces, you might have leather, glass. So there is a number of different surfaces, and all of them they have a little bit of different chemical and scratch resistance. When it comes to the surface that has sort of the strongest resistance for chemicals and scratches, is definitely rubber. It's very hard to scratch it. Also, it will take very strong chemicals. Rubber will take acidic, will take strong alkaline products. It's very hard to cause damage on rubber surfaces. However, you need to be aware that, for example, if you're dealing with rubber seals around the windows, you're not just thinking about that surface, because you have paint beside, you have glass beside, you might have sort of chrome finish around that as well. So when you dealing with rubber, even though this surface has great chemical and scratch resistance, you need to be aware of other surfaces around. Another type of surface that you have there, and is the most significant one, is definitely the paintwork. So has paint good chemical resistance? It does have quite good. Example of that is some people use solvent tar removers to remove tar from the body, and when you spray solvent tar remover, which is usually very strong, very aggressive product, for length of time the paint will be fine. However, if you extremely exceed the time of the contact of that product with the paint, what might happen, you might damage it. So as you can see, the paint has decent enough chemical resistance. When it comes to scratch resistance, I already told you before, it doesn't have great scratch resistance, but when it comes to chemicals, you can use sort of stronger chemicals, but only for the length of time. Of course, not every paint is the same, so that's another consideration. These days, most of cars are sprayed with clear coat as well, so we have 3 layers. But when it comes to older cars, they don't have clear coat protection, so when it comes to those cars, using stronger chemicals might actually cause damages much quicker than on the cars with the clear coat. So now let's talk about another type of surface that you will have in some cars, which is leather. Has leather got good chemical resistance? Overall, you won't damage the leather very quickly. However, when you clean leather, you should consider a couple of different factors. Leather is organic material. If you will pick products like, for example, all-purpose cleaner, which is alkaline-based product that is designed to clean deeply sort of organic dirt, but also is very good for removing oils, greases from surfaces. When you use all-purpose cleaner on leather, you will clean the surface initially, but in long term, you're making harm to the surface. The reason of that is, as I mentioned, all-purpose cleaner will clean oils. And leather as a material contains oils, so if you use all-purpose cleaner, you will be removing oils from the leather. In long run, that leather will start to get harder and will start to crack. So when it comes to choosing products for leather, you should have good understanding what leather is forced, and then choose dedicated leather cleaners. This way you can make your work safe. So we covered the chemical resistance of leather. Now let's talk about scratch resistance. Has it got good scratch resistance? It has better compared to the paint, for example. It's harder to scratch leather than the paint. So for cleaning leather, you can use, for example, screw pads which have a little bit of roughness in them. You can use leather brushes, but some people even use magic sponges. Magic sponge actually is quite abrasive, so what it will do in result, it will clean the surface, but it will also remove the top coat of leather. So in this case, you clean the surface, but you damage it at the same time. When it comes to leather, I'll give you another tip, because in other cases you don't really need to consider it as much. And another thing that you should consider is heat resistance. Of course, if you clean cars, you're not usually going to use extremely huge sources of heat. You might use steamers, you might use hot washes, etc. But when it comes to leather, I would totally avoid using sort of any source of heat. I wouldn't use steamers, I wouldn't use hot water for cleaning leather. The reason of that is leather overall can take good bit of heat. However, exposing leather to extreme heat leads to drying the leather. And another example, when it comes to cars, obviously every car has 4 wheels. Can you treat all the wheels very same way? Absolutely no, because you have different types of wheels. You have powder coated wheels, you have painted wheels, you might have chrome wheels, you might have polished aluminum, you have steel wheels, you have also like matte finish, glossy finish. So you need to consider the surface that you're dealing with. You can't treat every wheel just as a wheel and use the same wheel cleaner or the same tools for them. You need to look at what the wheel is made of. So in general, you have, for example, powder coated, painted and steel rims. those wheels have very good chemical resistance. You can use strong acidic products on them, you can use strong alkaline based product on them, and if you do it right, chance of damaging is very small. However, if you use extremely strong products, or for example delicate wheels like chrome or polished aluminium, the same product might actually cause serious damage to the surface. And the same thing applies to the tools that you're using. So if you have sort of tougher surface, more scratch resistance, you can use sort of harder brushes, but if the wheels are delicate, you should definitely use softer ones. So now I hope you have much better understanding what you should be aware when you clean different surfaces. I'm not going to give you all the examples. I suppose if you clean in cars, you probably have some sort of idea already, but the 3 examples I gave you are sort of ones that people cause damage the most. How to make your cleaning the most effective, efficient, and very safe. Overall, cleaning is a process that involves 4 different factors. So the first factor is the chemistry, so that stands for the product that you're using to deal with the task. The second factor is abrasion, so what sort of tool you're using, what sort of hardness of the tool you're using to deal with the task. Third one is the temperature, so that means if you, for example, cleaning dirty surfaces and use some sort of heat, for example steamer, or use hot wash when you wash in car, of course the higher temperature is gonna give you more abilities to clean the surface. And the last one is time. So most products require a bit of time to sit on the surface to do its job. Also that applies to the time that you put into the work. So if you're using chemicals, most of them, they do require some length of time. The longer you leave them, the better cleaning properties you have from that product. And if you work longer on the surface with the tools you have there, this way you're obviously gonna get better results. So I'm gonna give you an example, and when it comes to washing car, what you normally do, if you want to do it safely, you do your pre-wash stage, then you do your contact wash. So in the case of pre-wash stage, you also have the 4 factors there. Chemistry, if the car is dirty, what you should do, you should pick product that has very good cleaning abilities. If the car is cleaner, there's only light sort of dust, light dirt, what you can do, you can use pH neutral product, and that product will deal effectively with the dirt. Abrasion, in the case of pre-wash, as it's contactless process, you want to sort of avoid any abrasions. In this case, your abrasion is the pressure and water from the power washer, which is very mild, is not going to cause any damage. When it comes to the temperature, if you use cold water, will that work? In most cases, it works extremely well. However, if you had hot wash, this is obviously going to give you sort of better cleaning. And the last one in the pre-washing process is the time. So if you give the time to the power washer and you work slowly, obviously you will get that proper clean. If you race around the car, you might miss a lot of dirt and the car will be still dirty. So now let's see how quick car washes operate. If you want to do it safely, you understand that the time is one of those factors that you need to spend the time on washing car. Quick car washes want to reduce it as much as possible. So when it comes to the chemistry, what they choose is they choose a strong product as they have. That product might deal somehow with the dirt, for the fact that they're not going to give time to the product, they're not going to spend time on rinsing, but what that leads as well is often leads to chemical damages on the surfaces. When it comes to abrasion, well, most of those places they actually use power washer to try to remove the dirt, so they will use the power washer. However, I've seen establishments that what they do is they just go over with the power hose quickly, spray the solution on the car, and then do their contact wash. So they kind of cut the process altogether. This way you can be sure that you will cause a lot of damage to the paint. Also, when it comes to temperature, if you want to do the job quicker, if you run quick car wash, having hot wash would be sort of the best thing you could do there, because cold wash will not be enough for quick job. So as you can see now, regardless whether you try to do the job safely or whether you're doing quick car wash that you don't really care about, you have always those 4 factors in place. So now let's move to the contact wash. If you do your pre-wash correctly, then you have sort of 90% of your job done. The wash is safe. If you don't pay attention to your pre-wash, whatever you use for contact wash might damage the surfaces. So considering that you've done your pre-wash right, going to the contact wash, you also have those 4 factors there. Chemistry, you'll be using pH neutral shampoo in most cases. That's all you need. Once you remove the dirt contactlessly, you don't need any strong chemicals for the contact wash. When it comes to abrasion, if you want to do the job safely, as safe as possible, you will use microfiber or wool meat. Of course, there is very little abrasion from it, but it's enough to deal with that last bit of dirt that you might have left on the car. Temperature, if you want to make your work more effective, more efficient, using warm water in a bucket, for example, or then hot wash for rinsing, obviously makes your work better. And the last one is the time, so how long you spend with the meat to agitate your dirt. In this case, once you have your pre-wash done correctly, time for washing the car with the meat doesn't really make that much difference because most of the dirt should be gone already. And with that last touch, you'll be sure that you remove all the dirt fully. Of course, if you race around the car, you probably miss some spots there. So it's better to take your time, spend a little bit more, but do the job properly. So overall, detailing cars is not a rocket science whatsoever. However, you need to have good understanding of products that you use. You need to understand the surface that you deal with, its chemical and scratch resistance, and you need to understand the 4 factors what's involved in cleaning. And once you understand all of them, you can make your work very efficient, very safe, and very effective. To recap the video, what I'm gonna actually answer as well, because this is very common question when it comes to detailing products. Lots of people look for the best detailing product. They're looking for holy grail that will make their job extremely good, will make it easy. Of course, you need a good product to do the job, but it's up to you how you understand the product, how you understand its limits as well, because this is another thing. Also understanding the surface and all other different factors. That's what makes your work efficient, effective, and safe. So that's everything in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know like there's stuff that you maybe never thought before and you might think it's not related to what you do, but trust me, if you want to do long-term business, this is what you should start to learn from. You should start to understand those aspects of detailing. Once you have good knowledge there, everything will fall in place. If you have any questions, comment below. If you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe my channel so you won't miss any other videos that I'm gonna publish in the next while. And see you on the next one.